Hello again. Welcome to another edition of Northern Spotlights with me, Terry McStay. It's really good to see you all again. So as usual, this is an opportunity to shine a spotlight on someone amazing who's doing amazing things in the North. Just to give you a chance to find out a bit more about who they are, what makes them tick, and maybe be a bit inspired by what they're doing. So I'm delighted that today my guest is Ian Farrar from Far North. So today, Ian, the spotlight is on you.
Hello everyone, my name's Ian Farrar. I'm the founder of sales and marketing company Far North, business coach and content creator.
Now, I must admit, I'm feeling a little bit, I don't think intimidated is the right word, because you're not an intimidating fella and you're a really good friend, but you are the podcast king, I would say. Wow. So yeah. So you do we'll talk about it in a bit later, but you've been doing the Industry Angel podcast for quite a few years now. How many have you done?
Did about 250 episodes of Industry
okay.
Angel, and then I've done about 50 other sort of collaborations or guesting on other people's shows and live streams.
Right.
And, yeah.
So how does it feel being on? Although if you've been a guest on other people's,
yeah.
So this is. Right, so this is new for me on both counts,
okay.
But not for you. So I'm expecting amazing things.
It's really good, right? Because you'll know, or your colleagues will know, when you create a bit of content, half an hour, that's it, done and dusted.
Yeah.
It's the other stuff around that. So it's the editing of it, the social media, the promotion, the planning. It's huge.
Yeah.
So actually, if someone says, "Do you want to do a podcast?" I'm like, "Yes," because I can do half an hour and then I can just get out
and then leave. So and leaving us with all the
exactly.
or someone else with all the hard work. So what do you think? What we've done with the place?
It's awesome. Yeah, definitely. I love the greenery. Yeah, it's right up my street. Yeah.
So these are from. I'm going to give a shout out to Northern Design Centre who loaned us these chairs. We're waiting for the proper set to arrive. So in the meantime, they've lent us these. So a big shout out to Claire and Chris. And these are Deadgood chairs, who are a local designer. So a big shout out to them.
You did promise me leather chairs, actually.
I know. Well, that's what's on order.
Yeah, I was going to bring a cigar and a brandy and everything. Yes.
Well, when you come back for part 2,
right? Excellent.
I'll promise you we'll have some nice leather Chesterfields and a nice.
Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So as with all of our guests, I've asked you to send us a couple of photographs of your early life, just to give us, a bit of a picture of who you are and where you've come from. So the first one there is, well, there's two there of you on a swing and in a. I was going to say in a bath, but it's actually in a washing up bowl, isn't it? Really?
It's yeah.
We've all done it.
Yeah. Well, that was the summer of '76, right?
Oh, was it? Yeah, that really hot summer.
Yeah. So for any millennials or Gen Zs watching, so that was like, well, it was a heat wave across Europe. I think we reached. I think we reached about 30 odd in the UK.
Right.
During that '76. So yes, I essentially sat in either a bucket or a dish.
So that wasn't you getting clean. That was just you trying to
cooling off. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And my hair's white on that one. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, we all had white hair, and then some of us have gone back having white hair.
It's coming.
So you would have been what, 2 then?
1.
One.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, can you remember anything about that other than being really hot?
Do you notice I can actually? I've got strange memories. It's funny whether you want to get in this or not, but my mind works quite strangely. It's a bit like a USB stick, right? When it fills up, I tend to just blank it and start again. So my friends will say, "You remember when we were at the match that time?" I'm like, "Was that there?" Or remember did that? And then suddenly I'll get little really early memories that do stick, and I can remember that the water bit of that being washed.
Right. And that was presumably in your garden, or were you on holiday?
Lake District? We used to have a caravan at the lake, so a place where we love to go. So
and still do.
Yeah. So I've always been in the lakes.
Yeah. Brilliant. Now I don't suppose at that age you had a career in mind, but when you were, kind of early, sort of before you were sort of 10, 11, whatever. Did you have any? Did you want to be a fireman? Go on, you can.
It is interesting. I wanted to be a policeman.
Right.
I did, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was always short though.
Right.
Yeah, my grandfather used to say, "You'll never make a policeman. You're too little." And
you'd be all right now, of course.
of course, yeah, they changed the rules. Yeah,
shorter people.
And I did actually go for all the tests and everything.
Right.
And I got really fit at the time, and I was the last man standing on the bleep test. I did all that kind of stuff. And the company doctor said, "I see you on your notes that you're asthmatic." And I said, "Yeah, I got like childhood asthma." And he said, "Right, I want your boxing coach to write down for 6 months that you are fine after every session.
Really?
So when I get 6 months worth of like journal notes,
right,
we'll take you to the next session."
Wow.
So I spat my dummy.
Well,
said, "Nope,
yeah,
I'm not doing that."
Yeah.
So it wasn't for me. So yeah,
right.
Almost a policeman.
Well, the police force's loss is Northeast Industries' gain, shall we say? So, because we went to the same secondary school, didn't we? Not at the same time, but we both went to St Wilfrid's in South Shields.
Mm-hmm.
I quite enjoyed it there. Not as much as I enjoyed sixth form. I had a blast at sixth form, which is probably why I failed my A-levels. But so how did you enjoy your time?
Not really. I wasn't very academic whatsoever.
Right.
I think it's good now that, you know, we talk a lot about neurodivergence and how people's brains work and everything. But, you know, back in the 80s, 90s, you were just, you know, I couldn't concentrate. I was the class clown. Yeah. I love humor. I always wanted to just mess about. Yeah. And yeah, I didn't really do well at all at school. I mean, you know, my mum dug out some old reports, and I should have kept them, but in a fury, I burned them because they were terrible. They were really, really bad.
Right.
Yeah. So,
but that, you could say that's as much a fault of the teachers as it is your fault.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And as I say, now everything's changed. Now I was a school governor for 12 years as well. And I think that part of doing that, again, was a bit of a calling for me to sort of say, you know, we're not all the same, you know. Yeah, we do need little bits of assistance. So we're great at that now. Yeah. But back then we weren't. And if you were the class clown, you were just kicked to the side and left, really. So I was left.
Yeah, I think every class has at least one clown, didn't it?
But I was in my sister's shadows, who was 5 years older than me.
Right.
She's a rock star, you know, degree educated, she's great, professional, and I'm just like...
Yeah. I'd like to say that my sisters were in my shadow, but that probably isn't the case. I don't think.
I used to go to school and they say, "Are you Maria's brother?" Like, yeah. Sure.
Are you not adopted?
Yeah.
So that was when you were wanting to still thinking about joining the police when you were sort of that sort of age.
Yeah, for sure. And then I left school, and it was one of them ones when I left school, I sort of thought, wow, what have I done?
Or what do I do now?
Yeah, it was like I didn't try, so I straight away signed up. I did my GCSEs on an even actually South Tyneside College, right? To try to get maths and English that I didn't get at the time.
Because that's when it hits you, isn't it? When you leave.
Oh yeah.
And you've got nothing. And there are no doors open to you.
No. And career service back then was, you know, not as good as it is now. You just filled a couple of forms in and said, yeah, you should be a draftsman. Yeah. Which ultimately ended up being actually madly. And I just didn't know what to do. So I signed up an engineering apprenticeship. Right. At Railroads, part of NEI.
So that's the second photo that we got on the screen. So there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cracking photo. I think your hair was similar to that when I first met you.
Yeah. Yeah. It would still be like that now if it could be.
Well, yeah, it's same here. Yeah. So, so for those younger viewers, or those who aren't from the northeast area, rear rolls were a big deal, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, I think it was about 10,000 at Pomp. It was huge.
Right.
Yeah. When I got there, it was about maybe 500.
Right. And that was in Hebburn.
In Hebburn, yeah. But of course, you had like various bits of NEI, didn't you? Parsons, Clark Chapman's, that sort of stuff. Yeah. So it was a big northeast group.
Yeah. So you were an engineering apprentice, and you became. So what did you then become?
A draftsman, then design engineer. I don't know how, because I was terrible at engineering. I hid a lot. I practiced that at school. It was such a vast place, though. You could get lost in these places. The spotlight wasn't really shone on you as much, and you could kind of hide a little bit. But what I found out was I was really bad at engineering, but I was actually really good at people skills.
All right.
And I ultimately found my way into the tendering department.
Right.
So, doing large scale proposals and going out and meeting people in like a business development kind of role. And that's where I really flourished. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And how did that happen? Was it just kind of by chance or there's a story, isn't there?
There is. I laugh because, these large companies, in the 90s, that ultimately had to start coming down in size and employment levels because, there wasn't the things were tightening up in the economy and you couldn't just throw money at people anymore. And obviously as people's wages went up and everything, like, right, so redundancies were the thing, weren't there? In the 90s, lots of companies were made redundant and, we had the mines closed and that sort of thing. So redundancies I've kind of grew up in that mold. And as I sort of navigated through various departments that were getting rid of people and I was getting just pushed around, I ended up finding a guy who I'd sort of speaking at like town hall meetings. And he worked for another company that was in the group. I just went to see him one day and I said, look, I really like what you do. He was like, who are you? I said, I work over there. But I said, I watch your town hall meetings and I want your job.
Right, that's a bold move.
That's right. He went, I thought, where's this going to go? And he went, well, I tell you what it is. He went, I want his job through that glass window there. Right. So he went, if you can get me his job, you can have my deal. Job. And we kind of laughed about it. And then he was my unofficial mentor. Right. Before really mentorships were a thing, Yeah. And I'd go and speak to him, like just off the cuff, like, what do you think about this? And how can I do that? And I really started getting into career and like trying to better myself. Yeah. And then there was an opening and I went to work with him. Wow. And I still speak to him now and I would still class him as a mentor now. We still talk. Really well. So that was my role in the business development and people, being allowed to actually converse and talk rather than a sort of heads down engineering role, which I was terrible at. Yeah. There must be some pylons like creaking and.
Because I think because I was at sixth form in heaven and we went on because I did physics as one of my A levels and we did a little tour of railroads, but including there was that big kind of test center, where they could basically create weather, and artificial lightning and stuff. It was incredible. Yeah. So
didn't let me in there.
I bet they didn't. But there's a lot to be said for that about you making your own career, making your own rather than just relying on getting a promotion or getting whatever. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of kids who come out of school and I don't know if they still have this idea that you've got to decide when you're 16 what you're going to do because it's then fixed. Because it was a little bit like that for us, I think, wasn't it? It was you had to make a decision because once you decided that you were going to do something, that was it. And it's just so not true, is it?
No, still my mum will say, like, what do you actually do? My friends ask us what you do and I can't tell them. And I don't know what I do either because I change. I mean, we'll probably have about 7 or 8 different kind of roles throughout our career. And I mean, my son Luke's a perfect example. So Luke's cut our hair before he's a barber. He left school. Again, what do I do, Dad? But he was working as a Saturday lad in a barber's. And he's quite inquisitive and he'd watch people cut hair. And actually, I bought him a pair of scissors for Christmas once and he'd kind of trim mine and his friend's hair. And then he went to study barbering. He doesn't barber anymore. Really? And he's, 20? Yeah, he's 20. Yeah. So he's had a career, and now he's in his next career at 20. So now he works in customer service, and he does really well because again he speaks. He's got the gift of the gab. He talks. Yeah. You don't have to be a barber forever.
Yeah, exactly. And I think younger people now have a very different attitude, don't they? That they're not just going to fall into something and it sort of chews them up and spits them out. It's almost the other way around. They're going to make it work.
Yeah, definitely.
It work for them.
And if you are working like what Luke did, look at the people skills he achieved by working 2 years, seeing people day in, day out, and working for himself. So he's been a sole trader. He's learned tax. He's customer service skills, money, finance, projections, budgeting. He's learned everything. Entrepreneurship really in a short space of time. So
an apprenticeship and everything to do with business.
Yeah, it's cool.
Brilliant. Mm-hmm. So how you were rural for how long?
I stayed in engineering for about 15 years. I think it was my early 30s. A friend of mine reached out who he was the director of a software company, and he needed someone in business development. Right. And now I hadn't traditionally been in sales. A lot of work in tendering. It wasn't like traditional sales where you're trying to hustle and look for prospects and that sort of stuff. I said, look, I'm commercial, but I'm not really sales. Doesn't matter, just need someone. And it goes back to that thing, retain the talent, train the skill.
Yeah.
If someone's good, bring them in and you can train them, right?
And I suppose you didn't have a software background either, did you?
Well, interestingly enough, I kind of did, because in the engineering world, we were bringing in ERP systems.
Oh, I see.
And it was SAP at the time, SAP. So I was the champion in my department for that, because I thought I'd do anything to get out of engineering. So I started doing ERP systems. So it was actually a pretty good fit.
Right.
So I left there to work for a small business of less than 30 people in Washington, actually, working with selling ERP systems.
Right.
So I'd worked on them and I was selling to engineers.
Perfect.
So I'd walk into an engineering company, I'd say, hey, that's a cracking CNC. Oh, I still got that lovely lathe. I used to work on one of them. And they're like, oh, you sold already? Yeah. You haven't even talked about software.
Because you've got credibility. And
exactly what it was. Yeah. So although I was a bad engineer, I still could hold my own in there a little bit.
You knew enough to get by.
Yeah, exactly. Got me by.
You know all the right.
It was a really good fit, actually. It's probably the best fit I've ever had.
What was that? Because that must have been a big change going from a big company. Because I had exactly the same thing. I worked for ICI for 10, 11 years. And again, there are probably people watching this to whom that doesn't mean anything. Yeah. But and that was a massive global corporation. And then I joined a company of probably 15 people, and it was really good, but it was a big change. I mean, did you find that?
I look back on that career with NEI, which were ultimately VA-Tech, an Austrian firm, and then Siemens, and then actually worked for Balfour Beatty for a year after that. So working in large organizations, you're a kind of little fish in a big pond. Yeah, or a tiny cog in a huge machine. And that's it. You're pigeonholed. That's what you do. You do that bit there. Not very well, but you do that bit there. But looking back now, what I learned is lots of policies and procedures and that sort of stuff. And when I got to the small business end, I'd say like, so who does that? And I'm like, nobody. Right. Well, who's going to do it? Well, you. What about that? Well, and you end up literally wearing like a number of hats, don't you? You know, you wear like 7 or 8 hats, and if you don't know, you find out. Yeah. But the kind of apprentice bit that I had working with large corporates, I brought a lot of process and policies with me. Right. So it's like, well, if we're not got a procedure for that, no, well, we should do really. You know, I started putting policies and procedures into a small business and really like sort of professionalizing them. Yeah. So it was quite good, actually. A bit like school, I look back and go, that was a bit naff. It wasn't. Yeah. You know, I did learn a lot, but I didn't think I did at the time. Yeah. And I guess for businesses of that sort of size, sort of 20, 30, and they're growing, I guess for a lot of businesses, that's where they really can struggle, can't they? Because they need those processes and those procedures and the formality. Yeah. And if they've never done it before, where do they get that knowledge from? You're dead right. If you want to scale, if a business wants to scale, they can't scale in a better sand. It does need policies and procedures. So I actually went in as business development manager, and then I was promoted to head of sales and marketing. Then I was asked to join the board as commercial director. Right. So I watched that company, grow, and I'd like to think I was a part of that growth as well by putting a lot of the procedures in and the sales process, because there wasn't really a sales process in there. If somebody rang, I'd go and see them and try and sell them something. So I was more like proactive, let's go looking for work and that sort of stuff. So it's a really good fit. And I think that's where I first met you. You asked me to come in and talk about something. I've got no idea what it was. And so that was a company in Washington. And so how long were you there? It's probably about 8 years, 8 to 10 years, something like that. Right. Yeah. And then, because the company then changed, I think, didn't it? Yeah, there was a management buyout, which was quite interesting. And then we got acquired. Right. So the company that bought us was kind of going on that A&M trail, trying to grow their turnover by gobbling up smaller businesses. Yeah. So we were like pulled into this big company, and it was a real culture shock. It wasn't very nice, actually, because I'd certainly put all my heart and soul into it, and we might talk about burnout later. I literally burnt out 3 times in that organization. Yeah. I didn't learn. I was jumping on planes on a Monday, and I'd burnt out on the Friday and hospitalized. And it's all right, I'll take some beta blockers and I'll get through it. And I was bad. And I really put my heart and soul into it. Yeah. And then to be acquired was quite a tough kick, because I was trying to be part of that company. I ultimately wanted to do an MBO myself and be part of it, and then suddenly it's gone. Yeah. My future was a bit strange. Yeah. I was up in the air, and I stayed in a year in post, but it just wasn't for me. Yeah. So, but you hear that a lot, don't you? Where there's smaller companies that have been built up from nothing, and then they get acquired, and it just completely changes. Massively, yeah. But if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have started my own business. So
Well, exactly.
and I'm a huge believer in fate. I never sort of look back and go, I wish that had happened. And that's not me. You know,
because you don't know that the alternative would have been.
Of course not. Yeah, not getting too woo-woo, but and from a spirituality point of view, but I'm very much like go with the flow, the universal answer, and I just go with it, and it worked out.
So that third photo is that from your sort of scrapbook of your many, I'm sure, successes selling software?
Yeah, so I touched upon Burnout. I literally went all in. I did. I was pushing. So. We went.
Great hair, though. I mean,
again, it would still be like that if it could. Yeah, we like get them hair plugs, Terry. I'll be back, right? So like Middle East, Far East, so Malaysia, China, Dubai, that sort of stuff. Going on trade missions, working with UKTI. It was at the time. DTI now, is it? Department of International Trade.
I should know
DIT.
This, but
yes,
DIT. Yeah.
Going on trade missions, and that taught me a lot as well. It taught me a hell of a lot, actually. And time to reflect, time to be on my own, time to travel, trying to work things out. And I put my heart and soul in it. So, talking about burnout, I'd collapsed at work. I remember leaving work and I could only see out one eye.
Really?
Driving down the motorway thinking, do I go left to the hospital or do I go right home? And I went right home and collapsed on my son's trampoline, and I was out for like 18 hours, just wiped. I would just push hard, and... I had MRIs, cameras down the throat, chest x-rays, ultrasound. It was totally fine, but just stressed, you know.
Yeah.
So what I learned there was how to deal with stress, how to see stress coming, and I do see stress coming quite often. And it's self-inflicted because I'm addicted to work. I know I am.
Yeah.
I love it, So I do talk a lot about stress now with the people in Burnout to try to let them understand, there is other things outside. Definitely.
How to kind of deal with
it.
But
I wish I knew the signs in my 30s, so that's why I talk about it quite a lot.
Yeah. So that really. So I mean, I asked you for a photograph that kind of illustrates one of your proudest moments. Presumably that is one of the times when you thought, this is great.
Yeah, it's hard, when people say like, what is your proudest moment, and I'll say like, I don't have any. And then people will say from the outside, go, but you've done this. And it's like you there, so you're doing 250 episodes. Yeah, it's what you do, right?
Yeah.
Just stuff, to us, it's just stuff, isn't it? And I don't think I've done anything extraordinary. But that time in my life, I thought, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
When you're sitting in front of like the Dubai government, or when you're in a room of lots of Chinese people and there's interpreters and you're negotiating, and negotiating in China is very, very interesting.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, does part of you kind of think that you would quite have liked that element to have carried on a bit longer than it did?
No. It's interesting. So often people will like reach out and say like, are you looking for work? Or you get recruiters, or I get friends in the network saying, I've got a great opportunity. And they normally speak about money in that opportunity. They'll say, this is the salary. Expect me to go, and I'm just not interested. I'm probably the world's worst sales professional because I'm not turned on my money.
Yeah.
So in the past, it was the hunt, it was the business development, it was the winning. Not the commercials, and not the personal wealth piece. And I think we can get stuck in that personal wealth. And back then I was living in quite a big house. I had quite a big mortgage. I had 2 young children, and you get mortgage anxiety, and you kind of like earning money, thinking if that comes off, I'll get that commission, and if I get that commission, I can take them on holiday, or we can get a new conservatory. And I ended up being locked in that kind of like world of pushing all the time. And then now I look back and I look and I say like, what?
Why?
How much money can you have? What would you do with that money? I'm happy. I just so.
But it's so easy to get onto that kind of.
It really is.
Like hamster wheel, isn't it? And is that where the stress came from? Do you think needing to keep doing more?
Yeah, it certainly did. Yeah, and target setting as well. The MD was very pushy with targets because obviously he ultimately had a goal, which ultimately it was he sold out. So I was the key, really. The more I would bring in, the easier it would be for the company to grow. So it's kind of pushed, and at home life as well. It's trying to provide for your family. It is, guys do. I mean, the stats. I mean, and you in your volunteering role know how much stress guys do put on themselves at that kind of age, you know, 30s, 40s, and beyond, of course, but, you know, predominantly there, and there was a lot of stress. You know?
So you did that for a year under the new kind of regime, and then thought, what?
Get me out of here. It was one of the ones where I just thought, and I'm sure loads of people watching today, I'd love to work for myself, but what would I do? What can I do? You know, what is the key? What is the product?
Who would pay me to do something?
When can I do it? And there is no right or wrong time. And I often say this to people when I talk about getting married or having children. They'll often say, like, well, next year when we've done this, or then we'll save for that. And just do it. Just do it, you know. And I got to the point where I thought, well, I'll do it. And I had a bit of a runway in terms of cash flow behind us. I knew how long I could last. So yeah, I started Far North.
So you went from massive company to small company to you.
Micro business, yeah, definitely, yeah, to me, yeah. And it's interesting as well. I guess your salary followed that as well. You know, salary did a nice roller coaster, and you know, I guess during life people sort of follow the money sometimes, and they move for salary rises. I was literally going to drop off a cliff from a salary point of view. You know, at 40 years old with 2 kids and a big house.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it worked out.
It did work out, and would I do it now? I probably don't know, because again, you know, you change, you know, you evolve, don't you? I don't know. I've been about 5 or 6 different people in my you know, since I've been alive, and now I'm like in a different mindset altogether. Now I was at 40.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss, maybe.
Yeah.
I just sort of did it.
Yeah. So now, because you do a whole range of different things, don't you? In your so you've got Far North, but that isn't just one thing, is it?
Yeah,
it's quite a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So come on, let's hear about this.
But this is where my mum will be going. Right, okay, so that's what he does.
Yeah, writing it down.
It's I don't know whether I've got shiny thing syndrome, or I just love life and I love people and networks and everything, but I just get pushed and coerced, and I go with the flow. And during the last sort of 8 years of Far North, lots of different opportunities have came. So we'll start with the podcast. So when I started Far North, I kind of was in catch-up mode. I thought, I really need to catch up, and I need to learn a lot about entrepreneurship. So I'd always been into audiobooks, and this is the reason why I started podcasting. I actually gave myself a bit of a task. I often do this. 100 books. I wanted to read the top 100 books, right?
So you had another 100 things. We'll come on to that later.
Okay. I've always got this 100 thing, right? So I'm always goal setting. So I goal setting and started reading the top 100 books. And I always say, have you ever seen like Moby Dick's like this thick, and the classics are just terrible. So I started listening to audiobooks to kind of hack the system and get the 100, which I did. And during the audiobook piece, I started listening to really good books, and things like Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, 1936 maybe, still relevant today, and you learn a lot about like business and relationships and stuff. So then I sort of took that piece more into the podcasting world and started listening to entrepreneurship podcasts. And then I thought, I can't really find a UK podcast that's interview like this that I really like. It's laid back. It's not trying to sell anything. It's warts and all. And I thought, well, put your money where your mouth is. You know what I mean? Just do one. Yeah. And I remember coming into Rise and Design with you one day, and you know, you get your 2-minute pitches.
Oh yeah.
And I stood on the stage. I said, right, I've just started a podcast. You know, it's Industry Angel. I wouldn't mind you listening to it. Really naively, and then just it went off. It was crazy, because that was like 2016. 2016 was it? Yeah, 2016. So podcasts were around. 2016 was probably the renaissance of podcasts. It sort of started and then faded, and then it's gone up again. Now everyone's podcasting at the moment. So it hit number 1 in iTunes pretty quickly, and it was there for 2 years, and you were noteworthy. So that gave me a bit of leverage to sort of get some real big hitters on. So people like Jeffrey Moore, who's really good in the marketing world, he wrote Crossing the Chasm. Just reached out to Jeffrey's people. I'm number 1 in marketing. Yeah, no bother. I'll be on his show. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. So I started like interviewing like rock stars in my world that I'd listened to or read books of. And I really got into that bit, and then into the live streaming piece around like COVID. Remember we did. You did. Was it 8 hours? 8 hours, 42 minutes.
We did, and I did an online Lego Serious Play session with 2 of your guests.
Yeah, you did.
But then we all did crazy things during COVID, didn't we?
We did indeed, yeah.
But it was, some of it was,
Yeah.
well, a lot of it was worth doing, wasn't it? Because we learned things we probably wouldn't have.
Well, we did. So
otherwise.
that bit there, if you remember, I interviewed 16 people back to back.
Yeah.
16 people. You know, we're talking about burnout and pushing things. And then, you know, I didn't have a bucket under the desk, but I was literally running to the toilet while two people spoke to guests.
I think one of the toilet breaks was during my session. Yeah.
And it was fun. And again, it like kind of pushed me, and I learned a lot from that. So that was like the podcasting bit and the live streaming and speaking as well. So that got me into the speaking world. So I'm a member of the Professional Speaking Association. So I go and speak at conferences about marketing and about podcasting. Because I was in American podcast magazines. I wrote a chapter in a Canadian book about podcasting.
And that wasn't your aim, was it, when you started? You started a podcast just because no one else had done one that you wanted. And then it's just led on to...
And you know, that's a really good lesson for anyone watching this, is like, you just have to start something. Yeah. And almost don't think about the end goal. Yeah. I always say you never know where these things will take you. And like, can you remember we did the 8 hours thing? Yeah. I remember doing a live stream in front of an audience, and Bessie being there from Anyone4TV, and then Bessie saying, "I love that. Could you do that for me?" And I said, "Well, yeah. What do you want to do?" I want to interview Anne Cleves, who wrote the Vera books. Yeah. And then she said, "Right, we'll do it at the Tyne Theatre. We'll do 2, you know, a matinee and an evening show. And would you interview Anne Cleves just like this?" I said, "Yeah, fine." And Anne's like a superstar crime writer who wrote all the Vera books. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think you're right. You just start something and just go with it. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the Rising Design events. That when I first started those I think it was 2009. I remember the Gordon Olivier, the CEO of RTC at the time, who'd seen all of these things come and go for like 20, 30 years. Yeah. And he said, "Oh I'd give it about 6 months. Not in a horrible way, but just, you know, we've seen all this thing happen before. Yeah. And here we are, 15 years later, still running these events. Yeah. And they've led on to all sorts of things. I had the thought of it lasting for 15 years back then was just unthinkable. But you start something, you make it good, you put your heart and soul into it. Yeah. And who knows where it's going to...
Well, you know, you often do that stat, don't you, about how many bacon sandwiches you've been through, served, and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know if you've captured the relationship piece, you know, but if you actually mapped that out, it would just be vast about collaborations and who's people met. You've probably got a couple of weddings under your belt there. And it just goes, you know, and you're talking about some of the things that I've started. One of the projects we started last year was MRO Business Unite. Yeah. Which is something I'm really passionate about, micro businesses. And, you know, we've done sort of live streams and live interviews like this in front of an audience. And then we started doing Pecha Kuchas. Remember a bit like what you did at Horizon Design? You showed me that. I thought, why don't we do business presentations now? We can't call them Pecha Kucha.
We can't, yes. I did get a stroppy letter from the Pecha Kucha Institute saying, if you want to keep calling that, you have to pay us money. So we called it something else instead.
So we did a couple at the brewery, like little, you know, so I thought, you know, events, that could be pretty cool. So next thing you know, we're putting a full business event on because you think we can do that. And actually we did the second one this year as well.
Yeah. So that first one, you filled out the customs house, basically, didn't you?
Yeah, it's cool.
With, how long did you have to plan it? Was it
6 weeks? I know.
Right.
I know.
Are you sure you're trying to avoid burnout? Because it doesn't sound like you're taking the right steps.
Just get too excited, you know. I just love it.
Yeah,
love it.
And it was fantastic.
Oh, it was amazing.
So well, and it was
amazing.
And I think the fact that it was focused on micro businesses, and it had those type of businesses at its heart, and everything was aimed at supporting them and bringing them together and giving them a network, I suppose, of people who were going through the same thing. Yeah, but also people who'd gone through it and could give them some good input and good advice.
Yeah, or your supply chain as well. You know, you're only as strong as your supply chain, and you know, companies do have micro businesses within that supply chain, so they should be supporting that. Yeah, you know, and 96% of businesses in the UK are micro businesses. You know, we talk a lot about startup, we talk a lot about scale up, but we forget this piece in the middle, this 0 to 9 employees piece. Yeah, the butchers, the bakers, the people that cut your hair, the people that serve you coffee downstairs, and the croissants. These are the people like in business.
If they all disappeared, we'd really know.
Yeah, definitely. So that's what Micro Business Unite was about celebrating that. And it's a lonely journey running a business as well, especially after COVID. We lost so many businesses. Lots of people got out of the habit. So things like Rise and Design, you put it online, but then getting people back in the room was tough, wasn't it?
Yeah. And still is to some degree.
Yeah, it really is. We kind of got out of the habit. And so, that was about getting people back together and celebrating that space. So
you must have been so chuffed with the number of people that came along and just really, really enjoyed it.
Do you know what it is? I'm always one of these people who don't enjoy things in the moment. It sounds crazy. I saw a picture, and I know you like going to Milan as well. I saw a picture yesterday. Jess and I, my daughter, were in Milan a year yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
And there's a picture of me looking at the Last Supper.
Right.
Da Vinci's Last Supper, and I was like blown away. Da Vinci. Absolutely blown away and stunned at it. But I'll reflect on that when I'm in the moment. I kind of don't really go, wow, that's mad. It's later.
Right.
So when I was in Unite, it's like all these people are there, and I was like, and then later on, I go, oh, that was good. When I see the pictures.
Right. And because it featured Tony Robertson, who's become a good friend of yours. So for those of you who don't know, who's Tony Robinson? And he's not the Time Team Tony Robinson, is he? He's the other more important Tony
and if Tony's mum was around, he wouldn't be able to tell you. She wouldn't be able to tell you what Tony does either. Tony Robinson, he's got an OBE as well for the work he's done in business. He calls himself the MRO Business Champion as well. And the Happypreneur is his moniker. So he wrote a book about happypreneurship, which he actually read Small is Beautiful. The book, I can't remember the author now. Tony will slap my hand about this. And small business is beautiful. And he took that concept and he put it into happypreneurship. And what he means by that is about enjoying work, not burning out, not being led by money, or taking projects that might not fit with your values. It's about being happy. And Tony came and did his happypreneurship show. And Tony's 70, super active. He runs marathons and everything. He's a wild man. You'd know if you see him. He's very flamboyant.
And he started very much in the corporate world, didn't he?
And
then decided it wasn't for him.
Yeah, if you read his book, I'll plug his book. It's called The Happypreneur. And if you read his book, he started with Amway, which was the American way, which has been sort of referred to like kind of multi-level marketing, but they say it isn't. But like Herbalife, those sort of things where you get people selling and then you become a seller and people sell for you. And it just didn't fit with his values. And he was very, very good. He was the UK MD, I believe. But he just one day he kind of said, this is not for me. These values don't fit with what I'm about. And next thing you know, the Happypreneur was born.
And I think when the values don't fit, the money doesn't make up for it, does it?
Well, in sales, it's so hard to sell something you don't believe in. You imagine working in a company that you don't like. And I'm sure there's many people watching now in a business where you think, this is not fit. This is not for me anymore. Because a business evolves, an MD will start a business based on so many values. And then they might bring other people into the board. They might take, funding from someone that might invest and join the board. Values sometimes about going, can you remember 15 years ago when you started that business based on these values? Are you actually still there?
Yeah.
And businesses can move. And staff can be within that business and think, actually, this is no longer for me. So, values are key. Yeah.
And I guess going back to what you said earlier about when a company changes hands, and particularly when they go from being a small company to being part of a corporate, that's when the original values can just go out the window, can't they?
Yeah, definitely.
People just don't feel that they want to be part of it anymore.
Yeah, and culture is something massive that we speak to, especially in the micro business space. You've got to have a good culture. And we see it now more than ever in business. Employees have the upper hand, whereas when we were boys, you were afraid of the gaffer, and you might get the redundancy might come for you when the boss walks along with these envelopes. You think, am I going to get Now it's the other way, and rightly so. Employees are looked after now, and culture is huge. There's the younger generations now coming into organizations, and we're clambering for good people. Good people.
And in terms of micro businesses, so because I guess for a lot of, I work, the area I work in is all about helping businesses to grow, but that isn't for everyone, is it? And that isn't the only way you can be successful. It isn't just about going from 10 people to 50 people. So if you are, let's say you are a business of 8 people, and you don't really want to grow, what is the motivation or the thing that's driving them, would you say?
It's really interesting. So I'll answer it a little bit differently. So Misha, my right hand who works with me, she's very entrepreneurial. Now Misha won't want to run a business. She won't want all the headaches that comes with that, the insurances and the tax, and like I'll look after all that. But she's absolutely brilliant and very entrepreneurial.
Right.
So she's an entrepreneur in my business.
Right.
So not everybody wants to start a business, but they can be very entrepreneurial. And not everybody wants to scale a business, as you say. They can still have that 6 people, 7 employees, whatever it is. I guess it's the lifestyle piece, I always say this: if you didn't have staff and you didn't have clients, you'd be very happy in business, right?
Yeah,
because people can bring you headaches, So a smaller business is a bit easier to run. You can still have them values. You could still be fun but professional. So yeah, I think it's about having a good lifestyle. Whereas as it grows, it just comes with a bit of headache sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's about surrounding yourself with good people, though.
Yeah.
If you can do that, there's less headaches.
Yeah, that's right. And I think and I guess it's a choice, isn't it? You could start a business with a view of being massive. Fine.
Yeah.
You could start a business, and many of them do, with a view to being bought out in 5-10 years' time.
Yeah.
But equally, starting a business just to be a really, really good business and doing really, really good stuff,
Yeah.
and remaining quite small should be equally values.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure it is it? In the wider world.
Yeah, no, you're dead right. And you if you go back to the Simon Sinek piece, like what is your why? My why is very different. My why is not to grow a 7-figure business and then flip it and then retire. I'll never retire for a start, but like Tony, who's 70, I've got no interest. I love this space. That's not my why. My why is to make a difference, to change, meet people, have fun, give people opportunity, do things like, I'm sure we'll get on, like Carpaway that we did in the past, or MRO Business Unite, do stuff that you find really exciting and fun. That's my why. Yeah. I'm sure other people have a great, bring a product to market or solve an issue or start a charity. There's always a why there.
Yeah.
Why did he start something?
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't always have to be financial gain to then retire.
Yeah. It's interesting. We had an away day about a month or so ago, and we went through our personal values, and there was this kind of process you went through. And the biggest one for me, which I would never have, if somebody had said, write down on a piece of paper what is the thing that motivates you, I would never have written this down. But once I saw it, I thought, obviously, yes, that's what it is. And it was, as you said, to make a difference. Yeah. That's the thing that motivates me. Yeah. And that can be in so many different ways, can't it? And take on so many different forms. Yeah. And it can change almost daily. But I think for me, as long as I'm doing something that's making a difference to someone, then that's
it's really good that you got that on your way day. And I often say this when I'm doing workshops with people. As an icebreaker, I'll say, write down the 3 most important things in business. Yeah. And the 3 most important things in your life. Right. And it's the life thing I'm interested, because that can drive the business. So they'll often say like things like, oh,
it should drive the business,
my dogs or my children or my partner or church or football or something. They'll say something along them lines, but it'll often like dovetail in to that, And when you get them to understand, that's the important things. Business bit, it's just a job, right? It's just,
it's the thing you do in between all those other things.
That your children are the most important things in life. And my old man used to say to me, like, your shrouds don't have pockets. What's the point? You have a stack of money, but if you're lonely, if you don't see your family. Yeah. So those sort of things are really important. And it's sometimes you have to bring people back to them and values. Yeah.
So so you've done the micro business event. You've done 2 now, haven't you? Yeah. So is this going to be an annual thing? I mean, we won't hold you to it.
Do you know what it's like when you do the Great Loss Run? You go, never again, never doing that, and then you like sign, and that's it's the same thing with that. So we did the first one. We had that come down. I'm like, calm down. 6 weeks, we nailed it. Awesome. Yeah. And then people would say, are you doing it again? Are you doing it again? And the Customs House, I sit on the board of Customs House as well. They would say like, that was really good. We loved having people around. The vibe was great. Do you want to do it again? So maybe. Right. It's hard because micro businesses don't have all the money in the world. And this is, again, I'll try and not get on my soapbox here, but there was a couple of conferences in the same week as we did Unite, and the ticket price was about 6 times higher. Really? And I don't know how you can have a small business conference when the ticket price is £300, £400, £600, right? So we try to make it.
On top of
accessible.
them having to give up a whole day of running a
100%.
business.
Yeah, so we try to make it accessible for everybody, but then it just washes its own face, just breaks even. So yeah, and there's so much effort involved.
Yeah.
But the outcome's great.
Yeah.
So we probably will.
Yeah. Well, when you do, I'm not going to say if, when you do, make sure you let us know and we'll.
Well, you spoke my first
I did come
one.
to the first one. I couldn't come to the second one. I can't remember why. But it was, I really enjoyed it. It was just really good to be.
Yeah.
I think there's a different energy.
Yeah.
When it's just all of those sorts of businesses and they've all got the same issues and all the.
Yeah.
It was buzzing. It was really good.
Loads of people have said that, and this year, and we did it in June for the sun. But May and June's really good now in the UK, isn't it? Like August now, it's done, isn't it? So I thought, right, June, sun. And we did some stuff outside in a little amphitheatre, little workshops, and the photographs were amazing. Right. And everyone said the energy and the vibe was just so good. Yeah.
That really makes it, doesn't it?
Definitely, yeah.
Fantastic. Should we put the kettle on?
Yes, let's do it.
It's time
let's have a cup of
tea.
Yeah, let's do it.
So welcome back. We're here again with Ian, and we now both have a nice cup of tea. So,
Well, you say nice.
Well, I do my best,
Cheers.
Actually, before you put it down, in case you're not at the table, I've been collecting
Good man. Have you been collecting this for me?
I've been collecting these beer mats for you. Would you like to explain to the viewers why you have various people collecting beer mats on your behalf?
So, we're talking about doing MRO Business Unite in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So I saw a few pictures online of pubs in back gardens. And 2 months later, I had a pub in my back garden. So, we've got a nice big shed. Can't even remember the meterage now. It's quite big, isn't it?
It's big enough to have a
Oh, you can get a dozen in
party.
there. Yeah, you can get a dozen in there. Dartboards, full bar, seating area, television. So,
Well, when you invited me round and a few others, whenever it was, and I was expecting, a shed with a couple of cans of lager outside. It is a pub.
Yeah.
The Farrar Arms, the kind of, what do you call it? The sort of
family
frosted
crest.
glass.
Frosted glass.
Optics.
Yeah. It's the Farrar Arms.
Oh, sorry.
Because that's our surname. We were Farriers.
Right. And you have lots of horse brasses.
Yeah, horse brasses and beer mats everywhere and pump clips. So thanks for that.
Ian is very specific though, or particular about the kind of beer mats, because this one, I'll tell you this one was from the Abbey Theatre Irish Bar in Rome.
Right.
As was this harp one.
Right, wow.
And this Guinness one.
Right.
I can't remember where that one's from.
So Irish and German beers in Rome.
Well, yeah, and that one underneath your cup is from the Woolpack in Slad, which is where Laurie Lee, the author of Sign with Rosie, that was his logo.
I think I saw you put that on Twitter.
I did.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where that one's from.
Wonderful.
This is the Whitley Bay Brewing Company that I've never come across.
Oh, I've never come across it.
Established 2016. Hopefully they're still going. So that's one of their.
Oh, I'll have to have a look at that. I was in Anarchy the other day, actually.
Right.
Anarchy Brewery, a little tour there.
Oh, yeah.
It's good.
So, yeah, that's one of your many
projects.
The Farrier Arms.
Another project, yeah.
I've also asked, as well as asking you to bring some photographs, I asked you what your favourite biscuit was. And
you did.
Your response was?
Well, I said, I don't do biscuits, right? But to be truthful, I do. But I try not to.
Right.
Okay, so yes, I said.
Because you're a bit of a healthy living kind of guy.
I try.
Right?
I try.
Well, you do pretty well. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll take that.
Because you're at the gym, you visit the gym quite regularly, don't you?
Yeah, twice a day.
Sorry?
Twice a day.
Twice a day?
Yeah.
And is that every day?
Every day. Well, weekends maybe might.
All right.
But we'll have a long walk or a long cycle on the weekend instead.
Right.
But yeah, Monday to Friday I go to gym every morning and night. Yeah.
Right. And is that quite close to, because you're based in...
I'm in South
Green,
Shields, so
South
yeah,
Shields.
we're just around the corner. So I'll do like 20 minutes cardio in the morning. So I'll do like really like high intensity cardio and then do some weights on an evening.
Right. Just to relax.
Do you know what it is? It takes 21 days to form a habit. And once you're in a habit, that's it, done.
Yeah.
It just like, I have my gym clothes at the side of the bed. So in the morning, wake up, I just put my gym clothes straight on and just get in the car and go. That's it, done.
Yeah. I must admit, because you post stuff on Twitter and things, and whenever I see it, I kind of get a bit inspired. Not enough to do anything, but it does inspire me to do more. So
good.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to keep posting then, and I'm going to tag you in it.
Although I did, we did have a chat not quite recently about doing a bike ride in next year in North Wales. Because what was it, 4 years ago? You and I and about a dozen other people did the C2C,
Coast to coast, yeah.
coast to coast on bikes in...
Awful. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
never again. Well, I've done it twice now. Every time it's not doing it.
But that was to support Grace House.
Grace House, yeah.
A fabulous charity based in Sunderland. And our good friend Simon Britton is the chair there. And he was the one who used to blame for getting us involved in doing
indeed.
the C2C.
Yeah.
And so we did it over 2 days, which was probably not enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed it, apart from the climb up to Hartside. If those of you who don't know Hartside, it's pretty much halfway, and it's quite a high peak at the top of the Pennines, and it nearly finished me. It really did. But we had a really good support team who would stop every now and then and throw Haribo and bananas at us and kept us.
But you had a road bike, did you not have a road bike?
I had a kind of a cross.
Like a cross. And I was on a mountain bike. It was like tractor tyres. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. I think a few people didn't really have the right gear.
Well, I remember coming down off there, and obviously you go so steep, what goes up must come down.
And then you go to Alston.
Yeah, and I remember we were staying just beyond there.
Yeah.
And it started getting dark, if you remember.
It was.
And I was on my mountain bike, and obviously
none of us had lights.
Well, exactly. And you'll go faster than me with a road bike. And I actually overtook all of you to get home. I was that annoyed. And I wasn't even watching. I was just head down, just get me out of here. I just flew past you all. You're like, he hasn't got any lights on or anything. That's fine. Yeah.
The funny thing was, so we got over on the Friday to stay in Workington, and we were in the pub, having a few beers, till whatever time. The following evening, in the youth hostel, I think we were all in bed for 9 o'clock.
I know that.
We were so
a little bit of a false sense of security. I'll be B&Bs and beers and stuff.
Yeah. It was a good experience.
So can I have one of these lovely biscuits?
Well, as you said, you don't eat biscuits.
So
I very specially got you some granola bars,
cereal bar kind of granola.
Yeah, so
there's probably tons of sugar in them, but don't tell us. I'll eat one.
Yeah, go on, force yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll have these.
And I shall have a peanut butter dark chocolate.
Do I have to eat it like on camera and chewing and? I'll save it for later.
Well, when you've got a mouth. So Ian, tell us all about that really other important thing. So we talked about doing the C2C and kind of activity type things, it was really good fun, and it was for a good cause, obviously. But you also have run these carp away days. So once you've finished, wash it down with a slurp of tea, and you can tell us all about carp away.
Okay, so I love walking, and I always find when you walk, especially with people you don't normally walk with, you end up having conversations like this. You get to know the person better, but then you're also just chatting through any sort of things that are like on your mind, any issues. And I thought with Carp Away, Seize the Way, I got carpaway.com as well. It's a cool domain. Getting business leaders out into nature, going for a walk together, and just chatting and just talking about anything that's on your mind. And it's funny when you walk with each other, because you're not looking each other in the eyes, and you're side by side. And I know you do volunteer and do counselling. I think that's at the end of the phone, isn't it? So it's much easier to talk when you're not looking someone in the eyes, and it's not like that kind of like intenseness. When you're walking side by side, and especially for like maybe an hour or so, you just end up sharing, getting to know that person really well. And we did that before COVID for a couple of years, and it was working really well. And again, another thing that COVID kind of put pay to, unfortunately. But you mentioned before about like, do you feel like, wow, you've accomplished something? I do remember on Carpway being at the back one day, and I think it was about 15 people from business, business leaders, employees, bit of everything. I remember standing at the back and thinking, look at that, isn't that cool? And I think we maybe might have been walking up Rosebery Topping or something like that, and just watching people, not in business attire, not in a business environment, just walking together and smiling and sharing. I thought, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we tend to meet like maybe an hour outside Newcastle, but that radius, and just move it around every so often, which was great. And I must launch it because it was good.
Yeah. And it's such a simple idea, isn't it? Going for a walk and having a chat while you do it.
Yeah.
And yet, if you get not even the right people, but if you get a good mix of people, and you don't need any external help, it's just, people will just talk and figure things out and advise each other and support each other and build relationships as well, won't they?
I remember it was Grant Murray actually. Grant, I think he was wanting to change jobs. And I saw Grant bounce from one person to the next, probably having the same conversation 5 times. And if there's a common denominator out of those 5 conversations, then maybe that's when you take action.
Yeah.
So it was like bouncing things off multiple people worked really well.
Yeah. Yeah, because I came on one of them, and it was great. It's just a really good way to connect with people in a really relaxed. There's no pressure. It's just
it's good.
And I think you do talk about things more freely when you're doing something else.
Walking
or whatever it might be. Yeah. Because you're not so focused then, are you, on seeing the right thing or.
I think as well, when you do things, I don't know if you're doing like team building stuff. I think you said you were away this year with the team. I don't know if you actually did an activity, but when you're doing an activity and sharing stuff, the camaraderie is so good. If you ever like walked a mountain with someone or done like high ropes or something, and you've got to kind of check if everyone's clipped in, and like, it's a great for bringing people together. You learn so much about each other. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So that's another thing you're going to start up again soon.
I'll have to. Yeah, I do. It's been on my mind. Yeah, I know. I need to do it.
I'll look forward to that as well. Because you're very much about people, aren't you? Very much about supporting people, whether that's people in business or just people generally. And I know you do a lot of work with students as well, don't you? At Sunderland University and other universities. Yeah. So how did that come about?
It was a tender actually. So we won the tender to support Sunderland University with their enterprise place and digital incubator students. So those were startup students who are spinning out a business or had a business side hustle whilst they were studying, and helping them coach through that. So yeah, we won the tender for that, and it's really interesting because you get to know them so well, and you actually they almost become second sons and daughters and everything. You just you treat them like that. I remember actually in Bucharest this year, I was speaking in Bucharest, and I went and met up with one of the students who was Romanian.
Really?
Yeah, I just love that bit. It's so from a business point of view, it's over delivery, but it's not a job. It doesn't feel like a job. Yeah. You're just helping someone. Yeah. So that was a really good project actually. Yeah, doing a lot of business coaching with young people.
And I think, and you've taken someone as kind of placements. I think, is that right?
Yeah, we've had interns and apprenticeships and work experience, and yeah, it's all good. I learn from them. It's crazy. Yeah, it keeps me.
Well,
young.
Yeah, and I think especially now when there's kind of all these different ways of doing marketing and doing everything really. And for us old geezers, it's well, maybe not for you, but certainly for me, getting my head around all this stuff. Whereas for them, it's just second nature, isn't it?
Yeah, and you're right, stuff changes really. Like I saw one of my team who's 21 sent me this like jokey memey thing on Instagram yesterday. And I was just like, I have no idea what that's about. Like the humor.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
So like my parents would say, I don't get your humor now. My dad would say, stand up now, it's terrible.
Yeah.
I've got no idea. So yeah, just keep you young a little bit. Yeah. It keeps your hand in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think they just have a different energy and a different outlook, don't they?
Well, definitely, and that's when we do like MRO Business Unite. I'll say to the universities, do you want anyone to get involved from a volunteering point of view? And we'll have people from like film and media will come, and they'll do things like this, production and video. We'll have people who will record content for social media. We'll get people who are runners. We'll get people just to sign people up and make sure everyone's checked in and that. So it's a great opportunity for them as well. And we have fun. We give them all T-shirts and that. We have a bit of a laugh together. So I love bringing young people into the business. It's brilliant. And
I guess for them, it's an opportunity to meet other businesses as well that they wouldn't get otherwise, would they?
You know, I say this about Misha, who I call her my right hand, who works with me direct. The sort of training she has been like second to none, really. And I don't mean that from an ego point of view. Just literally spent like years being next to me. Yeah. And I would love to have done that. So, I think it's a good opportunity for them as well to come into a small business and learn.
Yeah, definitely. Mm. Now we've touched on the fact that you're based in. You were born in South Shields, lived in South Shields most of your life, I think. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And you're really passionate about South Shields, aren't you? And South Tyneside, generally, and businesses and just everything about it.
Yeah. Where do you want us to go with that? Yeah, anyway, I know. Yeah, I do. So,
I mean, what is South Tyneside like as a place to do business and a place and a kind of a business community to be part of?
There's tons. It's a really interesting area. I mean, it's a deprived area if you look at it, from an economical point of view, and the figures are a bit low around unemployment and that sort of stuff. But it's a beautiful place, and I try to get involved where I can. So another little project, I was writing a book. I told you about Project 101. Have I told you about that?
No.
All right. Okay. So
now's your chance.
Right. Okay. So I was volunteering 101 times.
Oh yes, I remember. Yeah.
So of course COVID put pay to that, but I was on like 30 something. So I wanted to write a book and volunteer 101 times with different charities and different projects, and just sort of write a blog about each one to try and highlight the fact that what they do is amazing, but they don't really shout about it too much. And South Tyneside is the same. We've got some fantastic third sector charities and businesses and organisations, but you just don't know they're there. They're just kind of squirreling away, doing and changing lives massively, but not telling anyone about it. So 101 was about trying to work with them. So now I'm on the board of a few charities, because it's like you sort of work with them, you love them, and like, do you want to join the board? Like, I'd love to. Yeah, I love what you do. So with South Tyneside, I get involved, and especially when my kids were young as well, with scouts and football and school governor, which I've touched upon as well. So trying to get involved as much as possible, because I got so much out of South Tyneside, so now it's about giving back, and that's really rewarding, giving back. But I love South Tyneside, I do, yeah. It's mad, I've been in loads of different countries with work, and on holiday I've travelled quite a lot, been quite fortunate. You always come back home.
You always come back to Shields.
Always come back home, yeah.
It's because you mentioned that 101, was that when you did, because I remember were you doing firewalking and boxing? Was that the same?
Yeah. So I'd split it up in like physical challenge. So like boxing or half marathons or whatever, and then get cut out of cars by the fire brigade and all that sort of crazy stuff. Yeah.
And you got up to 30?
Yeah, 30 something. Yeah. So I've got a document on my PC, which is like everyone is documented. So I was waiting to get 101 and publish it, but I might actually go to 50 and publish it in 2.
Yeah.
Because what I want people to do is be inspired to then volunteer to do their own. And if I thought, if someone could pick that book up and think, I'll volunteer, it could be a bit of a ripple effect of more volunteers volunteering. So that was the whole thing about that.
Yeah, brilliant. So what's next, would you say? Because your kind of journey is very joyfully convoluted and led into lots of different interesting areas. So it's probably hard for you to say what's next, but what would you like to be next, do you think?
I think what we're doing at the moment, and we mentioned Tony Robinson earlier on with the MRO Business Alliance, I think that's a real passion at the moment to try and change the micro business landscape in the UK. One of the things we campaign for is pay in 30 days. So all companies should be trying to pay their invoices within 30 days. And I wrote an article this week about, delayed payments literally kill small businesses. So that is something really passionate. One of my invoices was paid this week by one of the Europe's largest engineering firms at 307 days. Right. There's lots of stories like that. There's billions of pounds in the economy floating around in unpaid invoices. So
that could make a huge difference if it went to the right place.
Massive, huge. Innovation. Small businesses innovate. because we have to, but we also can pivot really quickly. You know, if I want to do something, I sit with my team and say, should we do that? Like, MRO Business Unite? Yeah, 6 weeks later, it's done. Try and do that in a large organization, and there's business cases and policies and procedures. And
well, it would take 6 weeks to have a meeting about doing it.
Definitely. So small businesses innovate. Now, we can only innovate with people and resources and money to be able to pay people. If I can't pay staff and we have to lay them off, or we can't take a product to market, we're losing that innovation piece. So actually, you know, government will say, we need to start innovating more. We need to, well, yes, we do. So could you help, at least support us and get our business, get our invoices paid to help us innovate? So there's such a massive knock-on effect if that money is released into business, you know.
And again, it's such a simple thing, isn't it? It's not complicated. Just pay your bills.
You know, I did A-level business study, and my tutor said to me, don't pay your invoices until the last possible moment, and you've got banging down the door, then release. I'm the other way. If somebody works with us, I just pay it instantly. Invoice comes processed. From a multiple point of view, one, if someone's coming to my email box and I look at it and I've kind of processed the bandwidth in my mind to look at it, just get it rid. I don't have to touch it again. It's done.
Oh, exactly.
But just release that money so that person can then, you know, live indoors and eat. You know, small businesses actually need to survive that way. You large organizations just don't get that. So that, you can see I'm getting quite passionate about it now. Micro businesses is the thing now. I'm working with Tony and 3 other founders of the MRO Business Alliance to try and make a change in that space. I think that's the next thing that we're.
Do you think so? I mean, do you think there is enough support for micro businesses? I mean, we touched earlier on the fact that there's a big focus when we're thinking about big support programs around scale up and around exporting and about all these other things. But I'm not sure there's enough for businesses who just want to be really good at what they do. You know, and the support to help them just to do that and to be better at doing it.
There isn't. And if we had someone from government here and off the record, they might say, well, actually, no, small businesses aren't our focus. We want bigger businesses who are going to employ more, you know, and increase turnover and increase exports and all that kind of stuff. They're not. We are not on their radar at all. I know that for a fact. I've been told that as well. So that is something we want to try to get into Westminster and be able to talk about, is this space and how important it is, you know.
And as you say, if it's 96% of businesses, then it seems crazy that they're not.
And we've got some really big players on board as well, you know, who are backing us on this. And we're representing 1.4 million companies at the moment, and we only launched it earlier in 2023. So within 8 to 10 months, we've got some big players like Zero, Simply Business. They've all backed us. Simply Business have like 1 million customers, and they've signed on the dotted line with us. So you know, we're representing theirs now. So it's about trying to, you know, data is so powerful. You know, if a company puts out a survey, the respondents will be very low percentage. But with us, we're not having got any commercial gain. We've got access to millions of companies. If we can put data out, that survey, and grab data back, we can say to government, like, here's a real snapshot of this particular, or here's this local authority, or here's this region. So that's what we want to do, is grab data and be able to tell a story to make change.
And that's something that people can be part of. People watching this, if you're, you know, a business of not just micro businesses, I suppose anyone who wants to support you, there's things they can do.
Well, what we can do is membership organisations with over 100 people, they are joining the alliance. So Far North with MRO Business Unite, Far North is the member, and everyone who comes to Unite will then hear about the alliance through that membership, if you like. So any membership organisations who want to sign up. But of course, we've got a website you can jump on, and we've got blogs there from some, you know, really great people like Tony. So that's the focus right now, is to try to make a difference. Tony's been campaigning for paying 30 days for over 30 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And it still hasn't happened.
It still hasn't happened, and he keeps saying, I can't snuff it until I make a difference, and he's made a huge difference. But now it's about, you know, maybe other people coming on board and trying to help that. So,
So thinking back to, you know, your days as a self-confessed not very good engineer. I mean, the stuff you're doing now would have just never entered your head.
No, not at all. And that's what I said about having like sort of multiple lives within your life. You change, you know, every decade. You're almost someone else. You learn. You're exposed to different ideas. Meet new people. Yeah. You've got to start something though. You know, I probably wouldn't go back to episode 1 of Industry Angel. It's probably terrible, right? But for there being episode 250, there had to be one.
Yeah, exactly.
So you just have to start something. And I always say, no one's coming to save you. You have to start an idea yourself. So again, if anybody's watching and feels like doing something, you know, I've talked about reading the top 100 books. I've started talking about, you know, 101 charities to it. Just start. And if you don't finish, you don't finish. But something will happen along that journey. Which will change you. You know, it's a bit like when I talked about interviewing Anne Cleves at the Tyne Theatre. I had to go on Vera just to be, you know, experience what it was like, and I ended up being a solicitor.
Because you were an extra on Vera.
Oh, supporting artist.
Oh, sorry, supporting artist.
So then you've got people from school message you on Facebook. Have I just saw you on Vera? Oh yeah, I just
sat next to that criminal in Vera.
But it's just crack. It's fun. It's experience and doing stuff. Whereas, you know, we're not going to get that if we sit in a box. You just get out there and do it.
Do stuff.
Yeah, do stuff.
And not worry about the first one maybe not being that good. Because without the first one, you wouldn't get to the second one, would you?
Definitely.
Yeah, or the 250th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Brilliant. So just to kind of wrap up, so we've had a spotlight on you. Who or what would you like to shine a spotlight on? What is it that's something that, you know, you think should be, or a person that should be illuminated for whatever reason?
Well, I think we've said it really about micro businesses. I think that's really what I want to try and shine light on is the alliance and just make people aware. You know, even terminology of micro businesses. You know, some people watching might not realize like what is a micro business. 0 to 9 employees. You know, so them small businesses that we use every day. I want people to shine light on. I want us to shine light on those. You know, we talk about using small businesses on the high street more. We know we shop online. It's about maybe just making that choice to use that coffee shop or use that restaurant or, you know, just buy stuff from a small business, because those are the ones that are taking the risks. Those are the entrepreneurs, you know, those are the ones that, you know, are serving us. So, I want to shine light on those.
Yeah, because you go for a coffee or you don't get your coffee at Starbucks or you don't get your coffee at Costa, they're not going to notice. But if you miss a small little place or too many people, you know, don't go, then they could be out of business, couldn't they? Yeah,
and then what do? There used to be a great coffee shop at the corner of the road. It's not anymore. Did you use it? Well, once or twice. Use it more. You know? It's a couple of quid, but if everyone gives a couple of quid,
well, exactly.
You know, and you're getting something for it. It's not a charity. You know?
Brilliant. Well, Ian, it's been an absolute pleasure.
No, it's been great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for coming along and sharing your life with us and having this spotlight upon you.
Excellent.
And we look forward to hearing about. So it was the next Micro Business event, the next Carpway, and the next edition of your 100 exploits. So maybe when you've completed all of them, you can...
And maybe some charities watching can all get involved with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Terry.
So, hope you enjoyed that. Do join us next time when we'll be shining our spotlight on another inspirational guest. Bye now.